countrymen and women, a very good morning to all of you. Yesterday, the Bank of Zambia made an announcement that they shall be introducing new banknotes, including 500 kwacha and 200 kwacha denominated notes. Now, a lot of people have been debating on what the consequence of the introduction of these new and higher denominated banknotes is going to be, both for the overall economy as well as on the individual economic welfare of citizens. As Tonse Alliance, we have studied this matter and we wish to give our position as follows. First of all, the introduction of the 500 kwacha and 200 kwacha denominated banknotes is a clear admission on the part of the UPND government as well as the Bank of Zambia that they have failed to control inflation. And as a result of their failure to control inflation, the Zambian kwacha has become worthless to the extent that it is no longer tenable to carry larger amounts of currency for basic transactions, and hence the decision to introduce higher denominated notes. Now, the bone of contention perhaps is, why has the Zambian kwacha become so worthless? Or perhaps, why has the Zambian inflation become so high? For the record, the average inflation in the past 3 years that the UPND administration has been in office has averaged about 16.5%, which is the highest in recent history. Now, the question that arises is, why is our inflation so high? And the answer to that question is simply because of the poor economic policies that have been implemented by the UPND administration from the time that they came into office. An example that is worth citing is the decision by the UPND administration to introduce tax holidays for foreign-owned mining companies. Now, this decision was reflected in the 2022 national budget, specifically on page 7 of the national budget. And in announcing this decision, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Stumbe Komsokotwane, made it clear that the government shall be rolling out a $2 billion over a period of 3 years. Now, the overall effect of that tax holiday has been that we Forex, for us to be able to meet our Forex needs. As you may be aware, this country, from time immemorial, from the time that it was founded in 1964, we have heavily relied on copper as our major foreign exchange earner. Now, when the government makes a decision, the way the UPND government made a decision to actually give tax holidays, it basically means that we do not have access to the tax revenue from the mining sector or from copper mining that we have been relying on as a nation. You might remember that from as far back as 1964, all these major infrastructure projects that you see, the construction of Tazara, the construction of Windeni Oil Refinery, the construction of all these big buildings in town, Findeco House, and so on and so forth, were funded using proceeds from copper, because we have heavily relied on copper as our source of income as a nation. Of course, if you ask me, we are supposed to diversify. But until such a time that we actually diversify our economy, it is heavily going to be reliant on the mining sector in general and on copper mining in particular. Now, the UPND administration came on board in 2021 and they immediately introduced tax holidays for the mining sector. The overall impact of these tax holidays is that the contributions from the mining sector to our overall tax pool at the Zambia Revenue Authority has significantly dwindled. And this cuts across all tax types. Whether you talk about mineral royalty tax, you talk about income tax, you talk about any other tax type, pay as you earn, they have all dwindled significantly. And as a result of that reduced amount of forex which we are able to collect from the mines, we have found ourselves with less dollars and than we need to actually import the goods that we need to import. And most of you might be familiar with the fact that the Zambian economy is actually an import-oriented economy. Even small things, such as toothpicks, are not manufactured in Zambia. We import toothpicks from China. We import pretty much 90% of the things that we consume. So for us to be able to import, we need forex. We need US dollars. And for us to be able to spend that US dollars, to be able to import the things we need as a nation, we need to be able to earn that US dollar. And for us to earn that US dollar, we need to be able to export something. And our major export as a nation is basically copper and other related minerals. So when the UPND administration came into office and introduced tax holidays to the mining sector and told the mining sector that they are not supposed to pay taxes for a period of 3 years, which, by the way, they intend to extend, and that the total amount of taxes that will be given away to these mining sector companies is $3.2 billion, then the coffers of the Bank of Zambia does not have enough dollars to meet the demand for dollars that we need as a country to be able to import the goods that we need as a country, including basic things like fuel. We spend quite a huge amount of money, US dollars, to be able to import fuel, because the countries where we are buying this fuel will not accept the Zambian kwacha. They want US dollars. And then our source of US dollars, which are supposed to be the mines, is not there because the government has given tax holidays and told the mines that they are not supposed to pay specific types of taxes for a specific period of time. So that is the situation that we found ourselves. Now, because of that situation, because of us not having enough dollars to be able to meet our import needs, it has caused the depreciation of the kwacha. And that is the reason why you've seen that the exchange rate has significantly, steadily depreciated from about 17 kwacha in 2021, when the UPND took over office on the 26th of August, to about 28 kwacha as we speak today. So you can see that this is a significant depreciation of the kwacha, which you cannot attribute to normal economic factors, because normal economic factors is not supposed to bring about such a rapid depreciation of the kwacha. You can get an example from the period that the Patriotic Front were in office, the 10-year period from 2011 to 2021. When the Patriotic Front took over office in 2011, the exchange rate was at about 11 kwacha. And then you fast forward to 2021, it was around 17 kwacha. So you see a depreciation of about 6 kwacha over 10 years. And then you compare to the depreciation of the kwacha from 2011 to 2025, where we are today, which is a period of 4 years. We have moved from 17 kwacha to 28 kwacha, which is a total depreciation of 11 kwacha over a 4-year period. So clearly, the main driver, the key driver of this rapid depreciation of the kwacha has been the tax holidays that the UPND government has actually given to foreign-owned mining companies in the mining sector, specifically those mining companies in the northwestern part of Zambia, where most of our copper production actually comes from. And then you would ask to say, so what is the relationship between the tax holidays and then the depreciation of the kwacha and then the inflation, and then the introduction of the 500 kwacha and 200 kwacha denominated notes. So the depreciation of the kwacha, because we are an import-dependent country, the depreciation of the kwacha means that the imports that we buy are more expensive, and it drives up the prices of the imported goods that we buy because the kwacha has depreciated, which means we need more kwacha for the same amount of dollars to be able to buy the same amount of goods. And that is the reason why you've seen even things like fuel prices going up from about 16 kwacha in 2021 to about 34.5 kwacha as we speak today, because we need more kwacha to import the same amount of fuel because the kwacha has depreciated. And the kwacha has depreciated because government has given huge amounts of tax holidays to the mining sector. And these mines, these are international corporations. They are very rich. They are worth trillions of dollars where they come from, whether Canada or India or Brazil. These are very rich multinational corporations. So the question which you, the Zambian people, might want to ask your government is, why are we giving these tax holidays, these free gifts worth billions of dollars to these already rich mining companies when the citizens of this country are in need of government assistance? Why should we be giving these free gifts to mining companies? What is the motivation of government? So government needs to be able to explain to the Zambian people, which is you, the Zambian people, why they saw it necessary to give these large tax holidays to the mines. If you go through the budget speech, the 2022 budget speech, which was made by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwani, his argument for giving these tax holidays was that the country needed to attract investment in the mining sector. But when you look at the dynamics on the world stage, you are going to realize that the major mineral export that we make is copper. And the price of copper on the world market has been very high. It has been consistently high. It has been around $9,000 to $10,000, sometimes even $11,000 per metric ton. Why? Because copper is a major ingredient in the manufacture of electric vehicles. And the world is shifting now from the internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles. So that shifting will take probably the next 50 to 100 years. And for that entire period of time, copper will be on very high demand. The cost of mining copper, the last cost of mining study that was done, the cost of mining copper was determined to be about $2,500 per metric ton for open pit mines and about $3,500 per metric ton for underground mining. So if a mining company is spending $2,500 to mine 1 ton of copper for open pit, or $3,500 to mine 1 ton of copper for underground mines, and they are selling that copper for $10,000 per metric ton, which means they are making an average of about $7,000 per ton in profit. So if someone is making that large amount of profit, then why does government need to give any incentives to such a company to come and invest in the mining sector? Why does government need to give tax holidays to such companies for them to come and mine in the mining sector? There is no need for incentives in terms of tax holidays because the profit itself is an incentive enough. The profit itself is big enough to motivate anyone who has capital and who is interested in mining copper to come to Zambia and mine copper in Zambia, because they know that when they mine copper, they will make a huge profit of about $7,000 per metric ton. So there was no reason whatsoever. Our position is that the argument which was made by Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane, the Minister of Finance, does not carry water. There is no need for Zambia to give tax holidays to foreign-owned mines in order to attract them to come and mine in Zambia. They can come and mine in Zambia without that additional incentive because the profitability of copper mining is very high. And the reason that copper mining is very profitable is because copper is needed in the manufacture of electric vehicles. And electric vehicles is the in thing which is there now, and it will be the in thing which will be there tomorrow and the other day, and most likely for the next 100 to 200 years. Electric vehicles will be the in thing. And for as long as electric vehicles are the in thing, copper mining will be very profitable. Therefore, from our standpoint, as Tonse Alliance, we strongly believe that there was no reason whatsoever why the government needs to give these tax holidays to the mining sector, to foreign-owned mining entities. And as a consequence of those tax holidays, we've seen that we as a country have a higher demand for dollars than our supply for dollars, because our only supply for dollars has been the mining sector. And that supply has been curtailed because of the tax holidays that have been given by government in the past 3 years. And because our demand for dollar is higher than our supply of dollars, the exchange rate has gone up. The kwacha has depreciated. And because the kwacha has depreciated, the cost of importing goods to Zambia, including fuel, has gone up. It has brought about imported inflation into Zambia. And because of that imported inflation, the Zambian kwacha has become more worthless today than it has ever been before. And because the Zambian kwacha is more worthless now, government is now printing bigger notes. We've seen the introduction of 500 kwacha and 200 kwacha denominated notes from the 100 kwacha where we were. This is a huge jump in terms of the size of the notes. When you move from 100 kwacha to 500 kwacha, that is a 500% increment in the size of the notes. So it speaks volumes about the level of damage that has been done to our economy and the extent to which the Zambian kwacha has become worthless. It is not a little bit, it is a lot. If the Zambian kwacha had become worthless just a little over the past 3 years, then the next higher denominated note would have been maybe a 200 kwacha. But we've seen that the government has jumped from 100 kwacha as our highest denominated note to 500 kwacha, which is a 5-fold increase in terms of the size of the notes, which means if you extrapolate that to the well-being of the economy, our economy has significantly dwindled by a margin of 5. It has significantly dwindled by a margin of 5. Now, the question is, where are we going from here? From where we are right now, from this 500 kwacha as the highest note, where are we going? Our position as Tonse Alliance is that if government does not reverse their decision, which by the way we have consistently advised them against, if they do not reverse their decision to give these huge amounts of tax holidays to the mines, it means that as a nation, we are always going to be short of dollars. The demand for dollar, for us to import the things we need, such as fuel, will always be higher than the supply of dollars in terms of the money we get from the export of our minerals. And for as long as that is the situation, the kwacha will always depreciate. And for as long as the kwacha depreciates, the inflation will always be high because of the imported inflation. Our inflation will always be high. And for as long as our inflation is high, the kwacha will always become more and more worthless. And for as long as the kwacha is becoming more and more worthless every day, it means that there will be need to print even bigger and bigger notes. Sooner or later, we'll find that that 500 kwacha, which government is introducing on the 31st of March, 2025, will not be enough you'll find that we still need to carry bundles and bundles of that 500 kwacha. And when that happens, government will again be compelled to print bigger notes like 1,000 and 10,000 and 50,000 and 100,000 kwacha denominated notes. And when that happens, it means that even the credibility of our economy from external investors will significantly dwindle. It will dwindle the ability of other countries to do business with Zambia. The level of confidence in our economy will significantly dwindle because there will be a clear pattern that our economy is dwindling. And when you are dealing business with an economy which is dwindling, the risk of doing business is very high. It's very, very high. The business risk is very high. And very few people want to do business with a country that has very high business risk. Therefore, that will feed into our poor economic performance. It will feed into the continued depreciation of the kwacha, and then the kwacha will go on a downward spiral. And before we realize it, our currency is going to become more worthless than the Zimbabwean currency was in 2008, which compelled the Zimbabwean government to suspend their local currency, the Zimbabwean dollar, and adopt the US dollar as their official currency. Countrymen and women, as a nation, if the UPND do not change their current economic policies of giving tax holidays, not just tax holidays, but huge tax holidays to companies in the mining sector, then we are headed for doom. We as a nation are headed for doom. We are headed in the path of Zimbabwe that they headed in 2008. And up to now, Zimbabwe is still not able to use their local currency. They have remained using the US dollar. And using another country's currency has got its own attendant problems. For starters, the central bank has got no control. It has no control because the central bank is supposed to be able to exercise and manage monetary policy. They are supposed to be able to change things like the monetary policy rate. They are supposed to be able to change things like the statutory reserve ratio. They are supposed to be able to manage the economy from the monetary policy side of it. But when you are using another country's currency, the way Zimbabwe is using the US dollar, the central bank becomes useless and you cannot manage your economy. The management of your economy is dependent on the country whose currency you are actually using. So if the UPND government does not change their policy of giving huge amounts of tax holidays to companies in the mining sector, then we are headed for doom. Now, the question you might ask yourselves, which I have also been asking myself, is why have the UPND government been giving these huge tax holidays to the mining sector? What is their motivation? Why are they giving this free money to the mining sector? Why are they giving so much of our taxpayers' money to the mining sector free of charge? That is a question that I have been asking myself, and that is the question that you, the citizens of this country, should ask your government. When you interact with your members of parliament, when you interact with your government officials, when you meet your district commissioner, ask your district commissioner, ask your member of parliament, ask your minister in the UPND government, ask them a simple question and say, why are we giving so much money, billions of dollars in tax holidays to the mining sector? What is the motivation? What is the benefit of the country? Or is it a benefit of only selected people in the UPND? Are these mining companies funding the elections for the UPND? You should ask them that, because we need to know. Because there is no way that any reasonable group of people can just get a big chunk of money and go and give it to some companies, the mining, foreign-owned mining companies. It doesn't make sense to me, and it shouldn't make sense to you. So maybe when we ask our colleagues in government, when we ask our colleagues in the UPND, maybe they can give us a satisfactory answer. Maybe. But that is dependent on you and me. You ask our colleagues in UPND, You don't need to argue with them. It's not an arguing matter. It's just a matter where we want clarity as citizens of this country to say, why are we giving so much money to these foreign-owned mining companies? Why are we giving so much tax holidays? Why are we wasting these dollars on these mining companies to the detriment of our own economy? What is the benefit of Zambia as a nation through these tax holidays? Because clearly the argument put forward by the Minister of Finance does not carry water. Lastly, countrymen and women, when the Minister of Finance was announcing these tax holidays in 2022, during the presentation of the 2022 national budget, the other argument that he put forward, apart from the attraction of investment, was that these tax holidays will bring about an increment in copper production from we were at that time around 750,000 metric tons per annum in 2022. He said that the introduction of tax holidays to the mining sector will bring about an increment in the production, the level of production of copper, and that we are going to reach 3 million metric tons of copper per annum in 3 years' time. Now, the question is, has the introduction of those tax holidays actually resulted in any increment in copper production? The answer is a definite no. The answer is a definite no, because as at 2024, our copper production was around 680,000 metric tons. So if we moved from 750 in 2022, we are now at 680. It means that our annual copper production has actually dwindled. And the reason is simple, because in the submission that was made by the Minister of Finance, he said that when Zambia's copper production reaches 3 million metric tons, then that is when government is going to suspend the tax holidays once we reach that target of 3 million metric tons. But obviously, these foreign-owned mining companies know that if they were to increase copper production, and if we were going to approach that 3 million metric tons, then the tax holidays would be removed. And the foreign-owned mining companies don't want the tax holidays to be removed. So what did they do? They have continued to keep copper production low so that the government can continue with the tax holidays. They can continue to give them this free money. That is the reason why copper production has actually fallen from around 750,000 metric tons in 2022, when the tax holidays were introduced, to about 680,000 metric tons by 2024. So clearly, it is very evident that unless the UPND government, unless the Minister of Finance have other reasons, have other ulterior motives, there is no reason why we as a nation should actually continue with these tax holidays. These tax holidays need to be removed immediately. Otherwise, before we realize it, we are going to be holding a 2 billion kwacha note in our hands. And we are going to become the laughingstock in the region. We are going to become a laughingstock of the world. We are going to have total misery, economic misery among our people. Inflation is going to be off the roof simply because of a bad economic decision by the UPND administration to introduce tax holidays to the mining sector, to foreign-owned mining companies, which has robbed this country of the forex that we need for us to meet our internal forex obligations, such as importing fuel and so on and so forth. So countrymen and women, I appeal to you, challenge your leaders. You elected these leaders into office, go and challenge them. Go and seek explanations from them why they have continued to give these huge amounts of money as free tax holidays to the mining sector. Ask them those questions. Ask your DC those questions. Ask your member of parliament those questions. Ask your minister those questions. Thank you, and have a good morning.